Good afternoon. I'm going to tell the timekeeper when to start. So you see how we work, right? Sister agencies. And it's interesting the kind of challenges we had to kind of think through. So it's great to hear that presentation. It was very good, very encouraging. All right. So right after lunch, everybody's alert. So we're going to stay together. All right. So I have to say good afternoon. And based upon the time constraints, on your mark, get set, go. In this time that we have left, I'm going to talk about four components. One is resilience and increasing resilience in the both generation and the grid for BPL, preparation and recovery, public priorities, how we prepare for natural disasters, and where do renewables fit. And I'll try to cover as much as that. I thought that was the time already, so I'm finished. So a point somebody makes about resiliency, when you bend with the wind, but don't break in the storm. And I guess that's kind of what, as utilities, we went through in Dorian. Two factors that we think about in resiliency for utilities, design and cost, right? Those are key areas for us in the utility business. But the truth is, we can concentrate on resiliency, but a lack of resiliency in the utility system also costs. So we have to fight for a balance, right? We have to consider economic realities. I don't know, maybe Grand Bahama Power has infinite money. BPL does not, so we have to think about economic realities. And then one of the things is what we do as utilities sometimes, well, it depends, can sometimes get passed to the customer. And we have to think about our customers' ability to fund resiliency initiatives. Recently in New Providence, a group from the Public Utility Research Center, they were having a meeting with IRCA, and they came in, some senior policymakers, and they had a regulatory forum. I hope you see this. And they said, if you're designing for resiliency, there are a couple of factors you have to consider. What kind of network you design? One, do you want no damage in your utility system? Do you want 5% damage or 50%? What kind of storm you think you should design for? How many average storms do you think you're going to have? What's going to be the strength of the storm? What category type of storm are you going to design? I hope you see this, but I hope you get a sense. This is what they said the right target is for the Bahamas. So on the vertical, it's the rate increase in percentage, and then the category of storms. You see that? The green represents 50%. So if you want 50% of your storm, only 50% of your network to be impacted, then what they're saying is for category 3, you need to increase the rates that your customers pay by 8%. If you want only 5% of your network to be impacted, you have to increase the rate your customers pay by 20%. And on it goes up to category 5. So we can make some basic issues about that. Resilience costs, but the greater the level of resilience, the greater the cost. And that's what utilities have to work through. I won't go through all of this. This is just really pole size. My colleague talked about that today. BPL designs for category 3. That's where we get off the road. We're designing for category 3. And this whole point with the numbers was to show that you see these are just pole classes. Don't get confuddled with that. But the point is, a class 3 pole, class 4 pole, my friends at Grand Bahama, they're going to class 1. Yay woo. We're saying a class 4 pole, which is our LB design, is about 200, in this example, 269. You go higher, it's going to be more extensive. When you get to H3 poles, big poles, right? Big poles to harden your network, they cost about $3,000 per pole. And so utilities have to think through this in these systems. So now the example. In Marsh Harbor, in Abaco, we have two 34.5 kV lines that run between Marsh Harbor and Wilson City. We started to work on one of them that was designed to H3, the $3,000 pole, big strong pole. And then we have another line that we were in the process of repairing and upgrading, class 3. The class 3 poles during the Hurricane Dorian, most of them were destroyed, wiped out. We lost about 35 poles. This is about 35 of about 500 on the H3 poles. And then the question is, how did that happen? were they properly installed, right? So that tells you that resiliency works, but it comes at a cost. Big question utilities have to answer. Storm impact philosophy. Do you go overhead or do you go underground? Overhead is less costly to install, but you're more susceptible to faults, right? Rather than accidents. But they're easier to repair. Underground is more costly to install, probably 4 times more, but they're less likely to fault. When they do, it's a complicated process to repair them, right? And they require switchgear. So that's a question. And then in New Providence, for instance, when there was flooding impacted the underground utilities as well. And for some of our small islands that are near the coast, when there's storm surges, it impacts the coastal area and can impact underground utilities as well. So we're trying to think that through in our design, in our operations, and how we do our business. That's the T&D side. Generation, I should have talked, I'm sure I missed something. So what we're doing across our network in New Providence, some of the things we're doing, we have steel poles at the transmission level, 132 kV, 132,000 voltage applications. We have a few composite poles. They're expensive, but we are understanding that at our transmission level, we must go to steel or other forms that can withstand category 5 and higher storms, right? And then in Abaco, we're doing H3 upgrades to H3. We've considered ductiles, but that's a work in process. For the generation, we have a generation design concept of N-2. And so we design our system so that if we lose 2 generators, we can still function. During this storm, a number of our generators are mobile units, 1 megawatt each. So when the main power stations were impacted in Marsh Harbor and Wilson City, then we chipped in portable units to get the island back online. So that's point number 1. I have a lot of time left. Great. Preparation and recovery is where we are. And we start with this philosophy as a utility. We start the season by asking, what if, we did this one, the island of New Providence and other southern islands were hit with a Cat 5 storm. We start with that philosophy. Slush, sea, lake, and overland surges from hurricanes. NOAA has a process, let me tell you. So this says, let's model it. We attempt to model, and we look at a northwest storm, Cat 5. You can see from the impacts which islands are going to be hit. But when you get closer, in this case, we were looking at New Providence. Do you see it to the left? So this says in a storm surge, we're going to get storm, in a Cat 5 storm, with storm surges up to 15.3 feet. Can you see that? So when we lay this out on a geographic, this tells us that the eastern tip of New Providence and the southern bits will be significantly flooded. This is exactly what happened in Matthew. When we looked at Matthew, the greatest bit of impact on the island happened. Somebody did wrong. Okay, they give me the wrong. Okay, there we go. Right. So this is what we saw in New Providence. Underground cable networks, and the southern part of the island significantly impacted by the storm, right? So serious. You think about it. Think about the psychological impact. We met with senior government officials, and they tried to tell the Prime Minister that based upon how the storm was projected to come, there was going to be significant loss of life. It's going to be catastrophic. And so as a planner, you're sitting through trying to think, how do you process this? So I understand what you go through in this. And that's what happens. Okay. We have a same set of planning we go through. We're doing 5 phases. What happens before the storm? And we design right after the storm. 60 hours before the storm comes, 24 hours. What to do when the hurricane is in progress, and then when the hurricane has passed, and then restoration. So we're doing rotten pole assessment, meter checks, checking standby generators. We're looking at switch gear. We're assessing vehicles and storm drains. And then 60 hours, we're doing special tree trimming to hurricane shelters. We're confirming mobile communications. We're setting up the disaster command center, stocking vehicles and so on, fuel delivery, switch gear, and so on. And then we're also trying to store things like open bushing transformers, making sure first aid equipment is all right. Things that you would do before a storm. 24 hours before the storm hits, We're staffing the operations center, and we're removing special heavy equipment like pressure diggers and bucket trucks and cranes into special areas for storage. It's difficult for Grand Bahama Power because you were right near the coast, but we are kind of more inland, so we could figure that through. And then we continue. When the hurricane's in progress, nobody moves, nobody get hurt. All right? Everybody stays down. And then after the storm has passed, we try to restore as much of the T&D system as possible without major works, right? Guess what? All of that, and Hurricane Dorian comes through. There's no site to set up afterwards. So what do? 9,000 customers are off in Abaco. Homes are destroyed. My sister's calling in the middle of the storm and saying, listen, my house roof is off. We're in the middle of the storm, I need help. Psychological impacts. Generation systems are compromised. We're concerned. We don't hear. Some staff are missing. We don't know who are hurt, who are injured, who are killed. We're getting all these reports. What do you try to do? First chance we get into Abaco, we fly in, relief for the staff to try and find them and carry them care packages. Do rapid damage and needs analysis. Start the process to request international assistance, and then we start to deploy local crews. And what we do in this, at the end, because of the compromise to the network, if you look at the design, I hope you can see it on that side, I'm sorry, I couldn't move between the two, but the storm, if everybody's looking, came through this area. Do you see that? Between Marsh Harbor, and so our substations is compromised, Wilson City. But what we noticed is to the northern part of the island, a good bit of the infrastructure was up. All of the keys damaged, and then we had a good bit of infrastructure. So we started restoration in the south and installed microgrids. We forgot about the substations. Only so much customers we can feed. We brought in portable switchgear and installed them at those locations and brought customers online. And so today, Moore Island, Little Grand Key was restored in the first week. Then we moved to Cherokee Sound in the south, Cooperstown to the north, and then we're working on Marsh Harbor and those surrounding areas now, okay? Public priorities, and this is, what do we tell our customers when storms are approaching? We still try to sensitize them. Stay alert so you don't get hurt. We tell them of mental preparation. When you walk into Dorian, our staff had no home. One of the staff members spent 3 days. When the plane flew in, he was with his wife and 2 children in a car for 3 days. Mental preparation, right? What should we do? We say to our customers as well in this whole area, initiate maintenance of your systems for your house, initiate proper tree trimming, consider family members who require electricity for life support. The utility cannot help you after the power has gone, right? And then we talk about grounding systems, checking meter cans, corrosion, and protecting infrastructure. Because what we find, I don't know what the case is here in Grand Bahama, a lot of our customers don't care about the main switch and what happens behind the meter can and the grounding. And these can cause damages for you, right? So all those things, loading and so on. And then we tell them about generators, the standard things that you would tell a customer. And with my last 2 minutes, I'll go to the 4th point. We talk about ground potential. You know about ground potential. There's a lot of intelligent people here, right? You know about that. And then we monitor. My last point is renewables. Where's BPL in this case of renewables? So we talked about microgrids. There's a lot of consideration there, operational costs. This is ongoing for us. For Grand Bahama, you have space. Some of the family islands, you have space. Nassau, you don't have space, right? In Ragged Island, we have issued requests for proposals, RFPs for solar in North and South Eleuthera, North and Central Andros, Bimini, Inagua, and then we are just about complete with Ragged Island. All of the solar panels have been installed. This is going to be a system that can be powered from solar, batteries, and generation. And so they all tie together. So the goal is you run in solar during the day. In the evening, you switch the batteries. If the battery's exhausted, you go to generator until you get sunlight again. That's the whole concept. It's been tested already. We're waiting for energy storage. So that's where we are with that one, right? And when it comes to post-hurricane events like Dorian, BPLC's renewables is best suited to provide resilience. Sorry, I'm rushing because my time is gone. Resiliency to critical services and facilities. We have a consultancy team that's working with us now, and what they are talking about in designing for us is microgrids. So what they're saying is in family island installations, the goal is, thank you very much, I get it. In family island installations, like when the storm was damaged, we work at getting power back into Marsh Harbor, to the government clinic, to the major government offices. Our goal now is to actually put solar and small microgrids on those key areas in the various family islands so that if there's a storm impact, then those critical areas can remain on supply. And that's what we're working through with our consultant, right? And I would say, our goal for that initiative is 2021. And with that, I say thank you very much.